Alright, so we just finished up most of the stereo stuff and the flex here. Give you a little tour of what's going on. So we have these tweeter pods that we added here in the front. These are Dynaudios here. One cool little trick we came up with was put these trim rings on here, as the car's got all these little chrome trim rings around everything. And what this is actually a filter, a Tiffin filter for an SLR lens, which are made of aluminum, and we just sanded them off, and lo and behold, you have a trim ring, and it's just perfect. Matches exactly, pretty much. So anyway, we have tweeter here, mid-range there, and down here in the door, there's an 8-inch mid-bass down there. So this is the Dynaudio 362 set. So this guy's running active, so it's got an amp channel dedicated to it. These two have an amp channel dedicated, so there's a crossover in here, passive between these two here. So you got one channel of the amp going there, another channel of the amp going here. In the center here is a Hybrid Audio Technologies Legadia. That's a 3.5-inch speaker. Real nice, fit in there just perfectly. Here is the remote control for the Audison Bit 1 digital signal processor. You can see that fit just perfectly in that little spot right there, which is pretty nice. I'll show you the back. So in the rears, we have Focal two-way system here. There's a 6.5 here and a tweeter up here, and you can see we did the same treatment with the trim ring here. We got some vinyl that matches the car almost exactly. It's really great with the patterns and everything, so we're able to wrap everything and make it look like it was supposed to be there. The trick that I did here, so I went, the Dynaudios are super nice speakers in the front, and so I wanted to try something in the back, a little different, since I didn't care that much about how the back sounds. It's mostly fill. So these guys are fairly inexpensive. They're bottom end for Focals. They're like $300, I think, for the set. So, can you tell the difference between a really good speaker and an okay speaker? And you sure can. You come back here and listen to these versus listening to the front. It's a pretty dramatic difference. I'll show you underneath the seats here what's going on next. So under the passenger seat, we have the Audison Bit 1. Like I said, that's an 8-channel digital signal processor. And we have a Z Audio Micro. So this is a 4-channel by 75 watt into 4 ohm amp. This amp is running the rears here and the center channel up there. So we're actually only using 3 channels there. You can see one extra there that's not being used. The Bit 1 is also serving as de-equalization for the factory stereos. We still had to keep the factory head unit in here. And on this car, that meant keeping the factory amp as well. It has an external amplifier in the back. And if you take that amp out, you lose balance, fade, surround sound, the Ford Sync stuff. You lose everything if you take that amp out. So we basically had to leave that in. So that's what, 390 watt amp, I think it was. The 13 speakers or whatever they called in this thing. So you have to de-equalize all of that. So the factory stuff comes into this thing. This de-equalizes it, gets it flat again, and then we re-equalize it for the car inside the Bit 1 here. And then I'll show you the driver's side. Alright, then on the driver's side, we have a Z Audio Leviathan. This is a 6-channel by 190 watt into 4 ohms. You can see it fits just perfectly under the driver's seat there. And this guy is running all the front speakers. So there's one channel going to these two here, and so that's got a passive crossover between them. So there's 190 watts for that, 190 watts down there, and then the driver's door. So there's 4 channels, and there's 2 channels left for the subwoofer. And you can see under the driver's seat here, real clean. All the controls are available on the side here, so you can reach in here and twiddle them if you need to. And let me show you the subwoofer in the back. Now the subwoofer is just in a box right now. We may decide to change that later. We're strongly considering it. There isn't really a good place to put it in this car. So this panel over here is a likely candidate. This is where the factory sub was. But but it doesn't really lend itself because of all these shapes and contours to do anything, but I'm thinking that's where it's going to go. So we'll basically have to cut a big hole here and fiberglass something in. So that's a IDQ 12 from Image Dynamics. A real nice sub. It's not an SBL, noisy, loud sub. It's known as a signal quality sub. Sounds real good. It's a peak or typical power. I think it's RMS. I think was 500 watts on this thing, and so it matches nicely with that Z audio amplifier. And we're not going for ridiculous, crazy, loud subwoofer. That's not the design here. It's just to fill in the bottom, make it sound good. So that's that. I just got done equalizing everything with the DSP, sorry. So I'll show you all of that so you can see what it all looks like and do the before and after comparison with the factory stereo. Okay, so we are ready to show the front here. So we've got the pink noise track set up over here. We've got the frequency analyzer set up as we had it set up last time. And I will go ahead and record this track through the computer here. Same setup as before. The Tascam input box, the two mics are up there. And in the video, I will patch in the sound from the computer. When you hear the stereo playing, it'll be coming from here instead of from the camera mic, because the camera mic is crap. So, we'll go ahead and start the recording here. Hey, look, we have some visitors in front of the house. It's too bad you can't hunt these things around here. That's some venison steaks. Oh well. Okay, we're recording now, so we'll go to the pink noise track. Okay, so there you can see the waveform. Try and speak quietly here so that I don't influence it. That little peak there is from the sound of the beep when you hit the computer there. So you can see this is pretty flat all the way across here. The bass up here, you can flatten that down a little bit, but it doesn't sound good, so you're not going for perfectly flat usually here. But you can see it's pretty flat all the way across the board, and then we start to tail off at the top end up here. As I mentioned in my last video, the mics themselves tail off out here somewhere, so that's not super representative out there. And I can boost the treble up to flatten this out more here, but I don't like the way it sounds. So that's the curve, which looks really good. So now let's hear what some actual music sounds like. Okay, so as last time, we have Public Enemy #1 from Megadeth queued up here, and we'll go ahead and hit record and play. Okay, so as compared to the factory stereo, it's pretty close, but it's a little more treble up here. I don't know how well that'll come out in the tape or in the recording that I'm doing here, because these mics don't really pick up the top end all that great. So we'll see. You can do I'll try and do an A/B of the factory stereo and this stereo and see if you can tell the difference. It's probably going to be really hard on the mics, but we'll give it a try. In addition to that, I have another track that I've been using for testing, which I really like. This song is called Radioactive from Within Temptation. This is actually an Imagine Dragons song as the original, so this is a cover of it. But it's got a lot of bass, really powerful, good sounding song for testing this kind of stuff. So we'll hit record again, and we'll give you a listen to that. So as you can see, we're still largely keeping the same flat profile we had with the pink noise. So, it's relatively good in here. That's pink noise is a good representation of music. So it's pretty good. So that looks pretty nice, as you can see. We'll go ahead and flip back to the back of the car now and show you those speakers back there. Okay, and here we're ready to switch to the back now. I have the air conditioner on in here because I'm really hot, but so that's the background noise you hear is the air conditioner running. So go ahead and show you what the rears look like now. Give you an idea of that. So pink noise is running. I just have it muted right now. So again, we'll hit record. Mute the channels. So again, you could see the frequency curve was pretty flat there. These Focal tweeters are really, really bright, so I have them detuned a little bit so things aren't quite so harsh back here. But we'll put some music on and then you can hear what that sounds like. Hang on a sec. Okay, we'll go ahead and play some Megadeth now so you can hear what that sounds like. So again, hit record. Okay, and as you can see, it's pretty flat. Still sounds pretty good. It's not nearly as much bass as we had in the front. I remember the front has 8-inch drivers, and these are 6.5s down here, so it's quite a bit more bass. We'll go ahead and play the other track so you can hear what that one sounds like. Pull it back up. Where are you? Record. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll turn all the speakers on incrementally. So here's the control software for the sound processor right here, and as you can see, all the channels are muted except for the rear two here. So I'll go ahead and play the same song, and I'll go through and start turning these on one at a time, and you'll really hear the difference even in the back here. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So record. It is really hard to describe just how awesome it sounds in here right now. I know these mics aren't going to do it justice, so that's just a fact of life, but such is life. I'll go ahead and show you what we've got set up in the DSP here. So as I mentioned, it's an 8-channel signal processor. So we have one channel for each of the front woofers, one channel for each of the pair of mid and tweet up there, one for the subwoofer, one for the center channel, and one for each of the rears. And I'll show you the difference in the speakers, what a difference it makes in terms of what kind of EQ you have to do, etc. So starting with these rear guys, like I said, these are fairly bottom of the end focal, not very good speakers really. And this is the EQ profile that I had to put on the speaker to get it to sound reasonably flat. I see you had to boost the bass quite a bit, had to boost the mids, which makes sense because there's no mid here, there's just a tweeter and a woofer. So I had to do a lot of boost there, and then the high end, like I said, is pretty bright on these tweeters, so you got to pull it off a little bit. There's quite a bit of EQ that had to be applied to those to get them to sound good. Now compare that to the front woofer. The front woofers have a tiny little bit of boost up in here, around 50 hertz, 60 hertz, somewhere there, and then a cut around 200, and that's mostly because of the car. Cars tend to have a lot of boominess in the 100 to 200 hertz range because of the size of the cabin and everything. So I had to cut that out a little bit to compensate for the car, and a tiny little bit of boost up at 500. And then way down here, I cut this out just basically, there's no point in sending that ultra low power stuff to the speaker. The crossover right here is set for 900 hertz, which is where the passive crossover on the mid and tweet takes over. And if you look at the EQ profile on those guys, there's nothing. There's a little bit of boost up here at the top because the Dynaudio tweeters are really laid back tweeters. They're not very bright. So I like things a little bit bright, so you boost them up. Plus I'm getting old, right? So can't hear this stuff up here as well anymore. The speakers themselves are very flat, so if you want a little bit extra up there, you've got to add that. The center channel was that hybrid audio technology guy. That's listed as having a frequency range from, I think, 110 up to 18 kilohertz, which is a really, really wide range for a single speaker, which is why I went with it. And it's a reasonably good speaker flat down here. When you get up to the top, it really falls off pretty fast. So, you know, they rate it up to 18K, but I'm not sure how they come up with that number. It is sitting down inside the dash, so you're going to lose some energy there, so that probably helps there. So anyway, that's it. I will put this video together. Hopefully you'll be able to tell the difference between the factory setup and this setup. If not, you know, whatever. I did my best. These mics are not really expensive mics. I mean, they're focus. I think these were like $300 mics, so I mean they're pretty good mics, but they don't capture the high end really well. They don't capture the ultra low end really well. So it's the best I can do with what I have. So anyway, hopefully you guys found this video useful, and let me know if you have any questions about any of this. Thank you very much.